Mamma mia guys, welcome back to another video. I am Riccardo, aka the Mad Hatter. Welcome back to the channel. Today, in this month's review, you might have noticed, I'm in a different location. Yes, I'm out in the snow. So it has been snowing a lot right here, and it's been actually sunny for mostly all the week. So the snow has settled down. We have no more snow on the branches, so I can stay out here without having rain pouring on my head and my gear. And yeah, so the idea behind this video is when I was shooting a lot in these days. I went to the Wood to shooting with my girlfriend, and I noticed that one of the things that is more interesting about the snow is how difficult it is to shoot, but also how nasty a shot can be if you know how to shoot properly in the snow. So what we're gonna tackle today is, and this is gonna be a two-part video. This first part I'm gonna talk about how to set your camera and how to shoot, and the next one I'm gonna tell you how to edit with the snow environment. Without further ado, let's get started. Mamma mia! So, before we start talking into details on how to set your camera and how to compose your shot, one thing I want to talk about is, first of all, stay warm, second, prepare your gear. These two things will completely change your experience when shooting outside in the snow. First thing, clothing. Although it might not look like, for I just have a sweater on me right now, beneath it I have thermal clothing, okay? So I'm quite warm right now, and I also have a jacket with me that I can put on if it's too hot right now. And just to give you a reference, right now it should be a couple degrees beneath freezing, but I'm in the sun, okay? So the sun is hitting me and it's hot and nice. And just to give you a reference, I have, water resistance clothing on me, okay? In particular, these trousers, these are snowboarding trousers, and they're very nice they have patches that I can open up if I overheat. So that's the second point, okay? Stay warm, but not too warm. That's important for you're gonna be moving a lot, you're gonna be carrying a lot of gear, and it might be that you're gonna feel hot.
I'm just drawn that way.
You want to avoid, in any case, to sweat, okay? Sweat can be dangerous when shooting outside in freezing cold, for you can freeze onto yourself and bring you to a very bad situation so quickly. So again, stay warm, but use multiple layers to keep heat, but having the possibility to take them off if it's too hot. Second point, prepare your gear. In such freezing temperature, first of all, your batteries will last way less than normal, okay? Usually a battery in freezing cold might last at least a third less than normal, but this can decrease down to, I would say, half the capacity of normal. There are a couple of things that you can do to avoid this. First of all, be sure to bring a lot of batteries with you and charge them completely. Second thing, keep them warm, okay? If you keep them warm before placing them into your camera, this should help. This is even more true if you're using a drone, okay, or a gimbal, in which you have motorized gear moving, okay? In that case, the heat dissipation would be even greater, and it's important to keep everything warm and ready to go. For example, if you have a drone like the new Phantoms, they have preheating system that won't allow you to take off until your batteries are warm. That's a very nice thing, but it's something proprietary to DJI. And so for everything else, you might either keep your batteries into your jacket, close to your body, so that your body heat can heat them, or otherwise buy some heat bags and place them into your camera bag to keep everything warm. Second point is, everything that has a tendency to move will get stuck in freezing cold. I'm talking about fluid gimbals, tripods, gorilla pods. Okay, everything will be clunkier, everything will move in a more difficult way. So be prepared and make sure that you account for that when shooting. Third thing is must have. Okay, what are the equipment that you must have with you to shoot in the snow. For me personally, the one thing that won't give away any time when shooting in the snow is an ND filter. In particular, since the lights will change greatly depending if you are on the sun, in the sun, or in the shadow, a variable ND filter will do a much greater job than a fixed ND filter. Okay. It's important though to keep in mind that if you are using a wide lens, like in my case a 60mm lens, variable ND filters might give you weird effects if you have to crank them. Today it's not snowing, it's quite fine, so I don't have to worry too much about getting the camera wet. So if it's snowing, it's important to either have a weather sealed camera and lens, or make sure that you cover your camera and lens or your equipment in general to make sure that it doesn't get wet. Let's keep in mind that snow is nothing but iced water, so we want to make sure that nothing touches our camera if it's not weather sealed.
Okay, so now that we've covered how to prepare to shoot in the snow, it's time to talk about how to actually shoot using the snow to our advantage. Right now, I'm standing literally in the middle of a snowpack. Okay, so I have a lot of reflection coming from beneath me. Today is a very bright day. Okay, if I move, here I have the sun on my back. But you can see, even if I have no lighting at all, my face is not too dark. And this is because I have reflection from the snow coming from the ground, which is acting like a natural bouncer, light bouncer, giving me a nice soft lighting on my face. What happens if I move, further here, where I have no more snow? You see how it become instantly darker. This is because right now in the ground I have no longer snow, but I have concrete beneath me. But as soon as I move back on the snow, okay, you see how the light comes back again. That's one incredible thing that you can account for when shooting in snowy condition. If you can shoot with a bright sun, I would say on the back you can get a nice backlight without having to use that much light in front of yourself to get a nice exposure. In snowy condition, in particular if you're wearing something very white like me, you'll have a lot of contrast going on. Okay, as we talked previously, there's light bouncing from the ground, so the illumination is fine, but still we have very bright areas like the snow reflecting the sun, or your clothing if it's light, and the shadow areas which are quite dark indeed. So it's important to do two things. First, shoot it in a log profile. If you have it, you can shoot in a flat profile, do it. Okay, make sure to expose it properly, of course, but make sure that you retain all the possible dynamic range that you have available in your camera for you. And if you're noticing that I'm changing a lot, and the way I frame this is just because I forgot my tripod. Okay, so I have to manually handheld my camera, and it's quite heavy. Mamma mia. So, as I was saying, keep in mind contrast, okay? Make sure that you have a nice contrast going on. And am I in focus? No, I'm not, okay? Blithering camera. And filters. This is another important point. We talked about it previously, but right now what I want to talk about is how it can help you shooting in snow. I have light clothing, there's no reflecting, and although I'm shooting in a flat profile, of course, if I want to keep my shutter speed to 150, since I'm shooting at 24 FPS, it's important that I have something to help me keeping the exposure correct. I could crank the aperture, of course, and right now possibly it's too cranked, okay, but to open, okay. Right now I have it at 1.6, and it's intentional, for I want to show you how the background is becoming blurry, and that's not something you might want to do if you're shooting snow. Although you're doing something like a portrait right now, okay, for the framing that we have, we're in a beautiful location and we want to be able to show it, and right now it's too blurry to notice details and to capture the beauty of it. So what we might do is to lower this to something like 2.8 possibly, Okay, and of course adjust our ND filter to account. Okay, so we're back to a correct exposure, but now you can notice much better the background. Okay, it's more interesting, it has more texture, although it's still blurry, so you can still focus on my face. Okay, I'm right now moving on a much brighter area, not under the trees, and as you can see the exposure has increased a lot. So what I can do is just, crank this slightly more to make sure to account for that. And now we're back to proper exposure. So again, any filters is crucial to have a nice exposure, have a constant exposure on your footage, and avoiding making having anything clipping in the highlights or in the shadows. Of course, right now I've changed all this in camera to show you the differences. That is not something you should do in your final edit. Okay, brilliant tips. Okay, so right now we've talked about exposure. We've talked about how to use any filters, how to use this snow to your advantage to create a nice lighting. Now we should talk about what to do if it's not a sunny day like today, but if it's a cloudy day, and in particular if it's snowing. In that situation, everything will change quite a lot. And I'm sitting down for this, okay? And this is where weather sealed pants come in handy. Okay, I can sit in the snow and be pretty comfortable with that. So in case it's snowing, the lighting condition will be quite different from today. Today we have the sun coming straight from here, bouncing back on the snow, so I have a strong key light on me, but in the snow is bouncing on the other side and is still feeling something in the shadow area, so the contrast is still nice, but it's not too much. If it's snowing, chances are the sky will be one big cloud. The ground will still be snow, completely covered in snow, and so in that case, the light will not only bounce on the snow, but will also be diffused straight from the sky. Okay, the clouds will act like diffuser, so the contrast in general will be quite soft. That is something that you can use to your advantage if you know how to create color contrast, okay, and create interesting image using your composition. Having such a diffuse light can make the footage a lot cinematic, as you can see from this footage that I'm showing you right now. The problem is, if you don't know how to compose your image, chances are it will look a lot flat. Okay, you can try to crank the contrast in post-production, but it will not look nice, for you don't have actual shadows in your image. On the other hand, if you can create depth of field with something in the foreground, with layers in the image, and with color, in that case you won't need to crank the contrast in terms of exposure, for it will be already there. So guys, we are at the end of this video. As I said, this will be a two-part series. In the next part, we'll see how to edit all the footage that we created together today. As always, drop a comment below if you have suggestions for future videos or any questions on this one. Please, if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Make sure to follow me and Alessandro on Instagram to stay updated on any future projects. And if you want to learn more about DaVinci Resolve, Photoshop, or want to collaborate with us for your project, please make sure to check the link in the description. For our Fiverr pages, in which we offer both one-on-one lessons directly with us on color grading, Photoshop, all the good stuff, and as I said, collaborations with us for your projects. Until next time, please take care, stay safe, bye bye.
Mamma mia!